G'day YouTubers and welcome to another episode. I've been asked a few times to do a walk around on my bait and I keep putting it off. I'm sorry about that to the people that have asked me, but I finally got around to it. This is it. I'm pretty happy with the way I've got the boat set up now. Of course there's things I'd like to do with it which I'll never be able to afford, but for what I use it for, I think it's very well set up and I'm happy. So without wasting any more time on an intro, let's get started on the walk around. I've been asked to do a walk around on the boat and just show some of the things on it. So I thought this would be a good time to put it up. Just start off, I've got a Delta anchor. A lot of people like the Saka anchors, but I found this a lot cheaper and does a great job. One of the best things I put on the boat, and one of the first things I wanted to put on the boat, and something that I regard as absolutely indispensable now, and that is my anchor winch. I've got the Lone Star GX2 anchor winch and it has been tremendous. First time I've had an anchor winch on a small boat, on a trailer boat. Of course I had the anchor winch on the big boat, couldn't do without that there. But first anchor winch I've had on a small boat, and honestly I wouldn't be without one now. It's not too bad if you've got a tinny and you can walk up to the front of it, pull up the anchor, like a small open tinny. And if you've got a centre console, not a problem, walk up the front, pull up the anchor. But as soon as you get into a half cabin, then it becomes a problem. You've got to crawl through the cabin and out through the hatch or walk around the side. In my case, I got the side deck and get the anchor there. Just not good. I had to do it in the last boat, the Sunfish, the orange Haines, and it was smaller than this boat, and getting through the cabin for a big fella like me was quite a painful exercise. So I am so glad I got the anchor winch now. The fellow that bought the Haines off me, he put the smaller anchor winch on it, GX1. The other thing I've got here is the Minn Kota. I got the Altera because it has the automatic deploy. Same logic as for the anchor winch. I didn't want to have to crawl through the cabin to deploy it. Unfortunately, I still have to crawl through the cabin to turn it on because that is the switch just there, and there is no provision to extend that into the cabin, which is quite a shame because it would have been nice to be able to extend that switch. But never mind, you can't have everything. Once I've turned it on, at least I can deploy it and stow it from in the cabin of the remote control or from the Hummingbird unit, which is networked into it. Next thing, the bait latch. Now that is just a great invention. It allows me to go on and off the trailer just by myself, no hassle whatsoever. So that's another essential. Actually, pretty much everything I've got on the boat is an essential. Some like truth, but some things are essential. This is one of the essentials. The anchor winch is another essential as far as I'm concerned. My wife got quite inventive in naming the boat Sea-Venture. C as in capital C or SEA, but stylized. In her words, short for adventure at sea. That's the transducer for the Ray Marine. It's got the 3D vision on it. Down vision, side vision, 3D vision, 600 watt transducer, and gives great image. I've got the SE Sport 400 on the motor. That improves the ride on the boat, it improves fuel economy. I've done a video on it. I'm sure they won't work the same for every boat, but for this boat it's been a great addition. Small transducer here is for the Hummingbird unit. The big one beside it is the 1 kilowatt transducer for the Ray Marine. And this little baby transducer is for the downrigger, and that's how you can do bottom tracking with the downrigger. Tell it you want the downrigger ball to stay 10 feet above the bottom or 3 metres above the bottom, and it will track that bottom for you and keep the downrigger ball that far above the bottom. So great if you're looking for fish that just hang a little bit above the bottom. Just continue up here on the side while we're down on the ground. That's the downrigger, the Canon downrigger. That's been a great addition, although I haven't used it as much as I'd hoped I would. I've used it a bit. I don't know, it just tends to not be enough time out there. By the time I've done the bottom bashing I wanted to do, there doesn't seem to be a lot of time left for trolling. Hopefully I'll get a few more overnighters out there next year and find that a little bit easier. We're up inside the boat. You've got the 12-inch Marine Axiom Pro here, and it's a touchscreen unit, but believe me, if you're going out in rough weather, you want the manual controls on it as well, which is why I got the Pro. If you get the Axiom, not the Pro, it doesn't have those built in, but you can buy a separate keypad to go with it, and I really recommend doing that, because when it gets a bit rough, that is really hard to use, particularly if you've got some water getting in on it. You need to turn off the touch screen, and if you haven't got the buttons, then you're in trouble. Hummingbird, I've got a Helix 8. I am really disappointed that I didn't do my homework just a little bit better than I did. I bought the Helix 8 for the overall size of the unit so that I had a reasonable chance of seeing out over the unit while I was going along, and the unit wasn't so low that it hid the gauges. However, after I bought it, I found that the Helix 9 has the exact same outside dimensions and just a larger screen. So I didn't do my homework well enough there, which is a bit of a shame. I have the Marine radio. I fitted that after I bought the boat. The GME unit that came with the boat eventually died, and I was faced with a choice of what did I want to do about replacing it. So at the time, I only had the Axiom on the boat, and I was considering getting a second Axiom on it. So I decided I'd go with a Marine radio as well. But in the finish, I ended up going with the Hummingbird for the second sounder. And I think that's been a great decision, because the Hummingbird is brilliant in the bay, whereas the Marine's a lot better when you get offshore. So I think I've got the best of both worlds here. Now, a lot of blokes will tell you get the same unit because you can network them, but if you got the same unit, then you're limited to the capabilities of one unit, whereas the Hummingbird will operate at a much higher frequency on the transducer than the Marine does, and gives much clearer image in shallower water, not so good in deeper water, whereas the Marine comes into its own on the deeper water. So that's that. Safety gear. As you can see down there, that is the EFIRB. I have it in there under the passenger side on the basis that I will be at the wheel until the last minute if something goes wrong, while we're going along, that is. So I don't want to have to worry about that. I've got a PLB in my life jacket, which I wear 24/7 if I'm by myself, and if I've got a passenger on board, the EFIRB's their business. They can look after that while I'm busy looking after the boat, trying to keep us all out of the water. Okay, on this side, there's the fire extinguisher right down by my feet. I figure that's a better thing to have right where I can reach it than the EFIRB, because if we've got a fire on board, that'll put you in the water real quick. So trying to get that out is my main focus if it happens. The yellow bag there's my safety grab bag, again right at my feet. If things get bad and I've got time, I'll grab it. Otherwise I've got the life jacket on and the PLB in there, and I'll just take that. Just here I've got a chiller bag with a fish. The zipper broke on it. Had a big fish in there, and I didn't dong it on the head as well as I thought. It came back to life in it and had a good wriggle around and broke my zip. So now the chiller bag's there. I don't use it for keeping the fish cool anymore. I keep an esky on board for that because it keeps the ice much better. But the chiller bag's there. I put some water in it and throw the fish in there straight away to let them bleed out, and then move them onto the ice. I've got the big Bimini on this, along with the storm covers and the clears all along the sides. Keeps you snug as on the cold days, and the windy days and the wet days. Gives you plenty of protection from the sun. I've just got the standard seats in here, but I can swivel them around to face the back, and I can sit in there in the shade while I'm fishing. Some days, particularly in summer, it gets pretty hot out on the water, so that's pretty welcome. Not the seats where you can move the piece up to lean back on them, which is a bit of a shame, but never mind. It's not too bad. I do stand up a lot when I'm driving, it just seems to be easier. Depends how far I've got to go. If I'm offshore and got half an hour's travel, I'll sit down for that. But if it's nice and calm, I generally stand anyway. That there is the compass system for the Autopilot, and the Autopilot's rigged up into the Rain Marine unit, the Rain Marine Autopilot, and the Axiom does the navigation. Well, yes, does the navigation part of it. You set your route up in the Axiom. Yeah, if you see that box there on the wall, just after the spray bottle, that is the control unit for the Autopilot. And if I can move this out of the way a little bit. We're packed up in the yard here, we're not ready to go out anywhere. So that there is the pump unit for the Autopilot. There's a piece of plastic that I keep on the floor to protect the carpet just in front of it. The pump unit's right there in that back corner. That bucket there's for my bait, putting my bait in to thaw it. I've got the engine battery and the house battery in on that side. I've got another pair of batteries over on that side for the Minn Kota unit. Two 12-volt batteries and connected in series to give 24 volts for the Minn Kota. All these boxes with fishing line, tackle, lures, all that sort of stuff, they all fit down in the back there beside the batteries, but they're spread out at the moment because I'm in the middle of sort of reorganising them and going through them, getting out stuff that I've not been using and putting in some new stuff. You can see some carpet protector down there. I bought that at Bunnings. It's just standard sort of plastic carpet protector, and that's just try and stop the blood getting into the carpet so I don't have such a job cleaning it out. Now down in here beside the passenger seat is where I keep the big net. I like this big net, it folds up really small. It opens out really big and it's got an extra long handle, so if you've got a bit of a long chase on, you can still reach out and grab the fish. Storage under the seat here, this is what we call our pantry. That gets the drinks and food items in there. This comes up as well, and you've got a little sink thing in here that you can use if you want to wash up, and some more storage underneath it. As I say, this whole side section is reserved for the pantry items and plates, whatever your normal kitchen, I suppose you call it. So I generally don't keep anything else in there. All the stuff that I use and want to get to quickly and regularly goes in here, like the Minn Kota remote control, the crab measurer, the fish measurer. All that's nice and handy. Because of the limited dash space on these boats, I've had to install some stuff in under here. That's another switch box, a set of fuses and a breaker panel. They allow me to turn off the Autopilot, the Helix, the Hummingbird network, so that when I'm overnighting I can really power down the boat and conserve the battery for the morning. And just up in under there's a network control for the Hummingbird network and the converter to take NMEA signals to the Ethernet that is required by the Hummingbird so they can monitor what's happening on the engine. Main reason behind that is to make sure that I've got alarms happening if anything goes wrong with the engine, because the engine is far too expensive to be wanting to replace it. Coming around into the cabin, I keep my rods in the cabin until I get down on the water, then I put them up in the rocket launcher, which I'll get to shortly. My life jacket always sits there, so that as soon as I'm on the water the rods come out, the life jacket goes on. Now, the pool noodles are my wife's idea. She says the fiberglass on the sides, too cold when we sleep in here, and she likes to have the pool noodles so she doesn't lay up against the fiberglass and get cold. Other than that, there's not very much in the side pockets. I've kept them pretty clear. I've got all my diving gear in under the bunk there, various things in under the other bunks. In under the front here, I've got a spare anchor and some tools, first aid kit, and a couple of other odds and ends. But yeah, basically the tools, the first aid kit, spare anchor, and some anchor rope too. So that's basically use that as a stern anchor. So if I need a stern anchor to hold me in on the beach, that's where it is. Now this is the wife's side pocket. It has a little bit more stuff in there, including some of mine. A bit for the drone, a bag of stuff that might, basically tool items, but stuff that are more likely to be needed than the ones that are stored below. A beacon to beacon should always have a paper map on board, some blurb on the boat, and of course all the obligatory towels and stuff you have when you go out on a boat. And my wife doesn't go anywhere without an umbrella, so there you go. That's the bait board. It sits up on the back. Got 2 rod holders in it, and one day I would like to replace that with a bait board that has a proper recess around the edge, so that the blood and what have you's got somewhere to run without getting elsewhere on the boat, and put a bit of tubing on a drain hopefully, so that it runs straight down into the engine well there. And that's the rocket launchers. Room for 6 rods up there, which is okay when I'm by myself. A little bit light on when I've got someone on board with me. Floodlight is great for night time. Gives all the light you need out back. Of course, you got your anchor light up there, standard. And got a live bait tank. That's a great little scoop to get the bait out of the live bait tank. Can be quite hard to catch if you haven't got a scoop for it. That's a little dehooker I bought especially for dehooking the live bait off the sabiki rig. I almost forgot to show you under the driver's seat. That's where I keep the torch, a few other odds and ends, spotlight, lead for the electric reel, air pump for the live bait tank when I need to keep them for a while, and this is where I keep my made up rigs these days. Plus I've got some bags of sinkers and stuff in under there. And I've got some of these quick sinkers. Complete little pack and all sorts of sizes there. Great for when you're out and you need to get a sinker on or off really quickly. Saves having to cut your line and retie it. Just a brilliant idea. The big yellow bag under there is the parachute, drift parachute. It is impressive. Haven't used it yet, but really looking forward to using that one. I've had the standard El Cheapo drift chutes. This one is going to be the bee's knees, I hope. What else we got here? Got some milk bottles. I cut the top off so they've still got a handle. That's handy for scooping some water up if you want to clean something. Keep a bag full of ropes. Never know when you might need them. Keep some hydraulic oil for the steering, just in case. Some fish oil for burley. Bring the fish around if they're a bit reluctant. Something to dong the fish with when they get them on board if they're a bit lively. A couple of rod holders. Not outriggers, but for putting your rod out a lot further. They're great for trolling. You can get a bigger pattern on, or more lines in the water. And over this side, what have we got? That is the small, cheap drift chute. Some fenders for the boat when I come into the dock. and just some ropes to tie off with in case there's none on the dock. And that's about it. That's the complete walk around on the boat. Well, thanks for taking the time to watch this video. I must say that the walk around took longer than I expected it to. I thought I'd be flat out finishing 10 minutes of a video with it, but as it turned out, it was nearly twice that long. Sorry about that. I do try to keep them a little bit shorter, but I wanted to cover everything for the people that have asked about it. So that's it for this episode. Until next time, good fishing.